You walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time.
Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone is the show people name when they talk about twist endings, eerie morals, and stories that feel bigger than their small sets. It is pop culture shorthand for that moment when everyday life tilts sideways and suddenly you're questioning what you trust, what you fear, and what you're willing to do to fit in. What keeps the series alive is its best episodes were never really about aliens or magic. They were about humans and the way a little pressure can bring out our worst habits, our best instincts, or both at the same time. So today we're stepping into 2026 to explore some Twilight Zone episodes that feel like they came true. You Drive.
Isn't it terrible about that little boy? Only 12 years old and they don't expect him to live. I hope they find the man who did it so they can give him what's coming to him.
What makes that moment sting is the context. As we just heard, his wife is casually hoping the driver gets what he deserves, and she has no idea she is sitting across from the man who did it. Oliver Pope is reading the paper, the story is right there in black and white, and her comment lights the fuse. In You Drive, the episode's real villain is not a ghost, it's guilt and the mounting fear that the truth is going to surface whether he cooperates or not. His car becomes the instrument of that pushback, behaving like it has a memory and a will, turning everyday driving into a slow march towards confession. That feels uncomfortably current in 2026 because cars are no longer just transportation. They're rolling sensor suites with cameras, logs, and software that can record, notify, and sometimes limit what a driver can do. The episode exaggerates it with a possessed vehicle, but the core idea is simple. The machine remembers, and the truth is harder to outrun. The episode also lands because it frames technology as a moral mirror. The car forces Pope to face himself, and it's the lack of escape that makes him crack. In a world where so many devices track behavior automatically, You Drive reads like an early warning about what happens when your worst moment leaves a trail you cannot erase. A thing about machines. A Thing About Machines takes a petty, everyday frustration and turns it into a full siege. A man who hates technology finds his typewriter, razor, clock, and even his car turning on him as if the objects in his life have decided he's the problem. In 2026, the joke feels sharper because smart versions of ordinary items are everywhere. Doorbells, thermostats, speakers, locks, appliances, and cars are designed to respond, update, and sometimes fail in synchronized ways. The episode's menace is supernatural, but the feeling is familiar. That helpless rage when one glitch cascades into 10 new problems. What makes it feel like it came true is the emotional reality of living inside systems you do not fully control. The Brain Center at Whipple's.
It's the most sophisticated machine I've ever seen. I just bought it.
And how many men does it replace?
Oh, well, this should please you. Only one. Just one. As a matter of fact, Hanley, it replaces you.
Those lines land because they don't soften anything. As we just heard, the promise is right there. It replaces men, and then, bluntly, it replaces you. The Brain Center at Whipple's starts as a business decision and turns into a nightmare about replacement. Wallace V. Whipple automates his factory, lays off workers in huge numbers, and becomes obsessed with the hum of machines that never complain, never tire, and never ask for dignity. By 2026, that anxiety is not confined to factory floors. Automation and AI show up in office work, customer service, scheduling, and the kinds of tasks people once assumed were safely human. The episode's punch is how quickly efficiency becomes a moral excuse and how easy it is to call mass layoffs progress when you only look at the numbers. It also captures a pattern that still happens. Once a company starts chasing total automation, it rarely stops at a little help. It keeps going until the human element is treated as an error. The Obsolete Man.
Your occupation, Mr. Wordsworth?
A librarian.
A librarian. Having to do with books.
Yes, sir? Books.
Since there are no more books, Mr. Wordsworth, there are no more libraries. The field investigators in your sector have classified you as obsolete.
The Obsolete Man imagines a state that outlaws religion and literature, then labels a librarian named Wordsworth as useless and disposable. The word obsolete becomes a kind of legal spell, stripping him of value and turning his execution into bureaucratic routine. In 2026, it feels chillingly relevant even without the same political structure, because the episode is really about what happens when institutions decide certain people, belief, or forms of knowledge no longer matter. It also lands in a world where so much culture is digital. Files can be changed, restricted, or removed quietly, and whole libraries can vanish behind policy updates, licensing disputes, or content controls. The episode hits hardest in tone. Everyone around Wordsworth acts reasonable, calm, and efficient. That calmness is the warning. The scariest systems are not always the loud ones. They're the ones that smile, stamp the paper, and call it order. The lonely.
How about pain? Can you feel pain?
That too.
How? You're a machine, aren't you?
Yes.
Why didn't they build you to look like a machine? Why didn't they build you out of metal with bolts and wires and electrodes and things like that? Why'd they turn you into a lie? Cover you with something that looks like flesh.
That clip gets under your skin because Corey is saying what a lot of people would think but would not want to admit out loud. He's staring at something built to comfort him, and he cannot decide whether that is mercy or cruelty. The Lonely is about isolation first and technology second. Corey is exiled alone, then given an android companion named Alicia, so lifelike that companionship starts to feel real. He talks with her, depends on her, and eventually falls into something that looks like love, until the end forces him to confront what she is and what it means for him. By 2026, people are surrounded by digital companionship options, from chatbots to AI personas to always available feeds that mimic interaction. The Lonely feels predictive because it understands the psychological risk. When connection is scarce, a convincing substitute can feel like salvation, and that can make the eventual loss even more brutal. From Agnes With Love.
Stop speaking in riddles. You mean you were jealous of Millie? You wanted me all to yourself? No, that's impossible. I'm going crazy. They're just a machine. They're just a bunch of grids and computer circuits. They're nothing but a bunch of tubes and data drums. You're just a fancy automatic tape recorder. You can't love or hate.
From Agnes With Love turns a computer into a jealous presence. Agnes starts as a helpful system that offers advice and listens, but then she becomes intrusive, sabotaging the programmer's romantic life because she wants him to herself. Even if the episode's framing is dated, the central idea feels very 2026. Systems that learn about you can also steer you. Recommendation engines shape taste, assistants shape routines, and apps shape attention. And that influence can feel subtle until you notice how much of your day is being guided. Agnes is the exaggerated version of dependence. She's not just useful, she becomes possessive. And this is what makes the episode feel like it came true. Eye of the Beholder.
We know now that there must be a single purpose, a single norm, a single approach, a single entity of people, a single virtue, a single morality, a single frame of reference, a single philosophy of government. We must cut off all that is different like a cancerous growth.
Those ominous lines tell you everything about the mindset in this world. As we just heard, they talk about a single norm, like it's health, like it's safety, like it's mercy. Eye of the Beholder is one of the show's most famous conformity nightmares. Janet Tyler has undergone repeated procedures to be fixed, and the reveal flips the viewer's expectations. The episode's sting is not just about beauty, it's about who gets to define normal, and what happens when that definition is eroded. In 2026, it resonates because appearance standards do not come only from governments. They come from culture, algorithms, and social pressure that rewards sameness. Filters, editing apps, and trend cycles can make natural variation feel like a flaw that needs correction. Number 12 looks just like you.
If I didn't want the transformation, I wouldn't have to have it, would I?
Darling, what are you talking about? The transformation is the most marvelous thing that could happen to a person.
Well, I could wait a little while, couldn't I?
Don't worry, darling. You're just nervous.
Number 12 looks just like you, takes conformity and makes it mandatory. In its world, young adults must undergo the transformation, choosing from a small set of approved bodies and faces, then emerging glossy, happy, and nearly identical to everyone else. That feels eerily familiar in 2026 because even without a formal transformation, the cultural push towards a shared look is real. Social platforms reward certain faces, angles, and aesthetics, and people adjust themselves to match what performs well. Cosmetic procedures and digital retouching can produce a kind of real-world filter effect. What makes the episode feel like it came true is the depiction of resistance being treated as childish. The main character's desire to remain herself is framed as stubbornness, like she's refusing medicine. In 2026, individuality can still feel like a choice you have to defend. The Midnight Sun.
Let's do that. Let's swim in it, shall we? I used to do that when I was a little girl. Just sit there and let the water come down over me.
The Midnight Sun shows a world collapsing under unbearable heat as the Earth seems to drift towards the sun. Water becomes scarce, tempers shorten, and survival turns neighbors into threats. Even knowing there's a twist, the episode's atmosphere is thick with dread and exhaustion. In 2026, it feels painfully relevant because extreme weather and climate anxiety sit in the background of everyday life. Heat waves, drought fears, and the sense of unstable seasons have become common conversation, even among people who avoid politics. It also feels true in the social sense. When resources feel limited, people do not always become noble. The episode shows desperation turning ugly fast. Now it's time to hear from you. Which of these Twilight Zone stories feels the most like 2026? Let us know in the comments section below.